Welcome to Daily's Video Experience Pioneers series. I'm Pete Hawks, Head of Design at Daily. Interactive, real-time video is rapidly changing how we interact with products and services online. In this series, we highlight design experts at the forefront of this revolution. Today, we speak with members from the incredible team at WebinarGeek, an online platform where you can quickly create a custom webinar and reach an audience of up to 4,000 viewers, all from within your browser. We hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next session in our Video Experience Pioneers series. My name is Pete Hawks. I'm Head of Design at Daily, and I have with me here today two fine folks from WebinarGeek, Remy, Gardien, and Carlos Marcelino. Maybe you could both introduce yourselves and say a little bit about what you do at WebinarGeek. We'll start with Remy.
Okay, kick it off. So my name is Remy indeed. I'm the CTO of WebinarGeek. I've been there since the early days. WebinarGeek exists for, what is it now, 8 years. And I've been there for 6 years. I've started as a developer with just 2 people. And now I'm the CTO, heading a team of 17 enthusiastic engineers that build the products. So my role is managing that team and acting as the product owner.
Fantastic. And Carlos?
Yeah, I've joined WebinarGeek for what it's now a year. I'm spearheading the product design team. We're a small team. I'm involved in most of our platform. So I'm involved in the experience of the front end, the experience of the back end, and also in our more public website. So yeah, I'm also helping out with the team with issues and tasks that came up and breaking down those issues as well and assigning. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wonderful. 8 years is a long time in tech. I'm sure quite a bit has changed. I mean, not just in the landscape itself, but probably in WebinarGeek's journey. Yeah, what brought you here, Remy? How did WebinarGeek come about?
Yeah, well, for myself, I'm a builder. Always have been a builder, programmer. I started as a programmer, and ever since like to build things or be at least being involved in things. And I knew the founder of WebinarGeek who reached out to me a few years after WebinarGeek's inception. And yeah, it got me excited to work on our product and grow it. And it's been super exciting to start as a developer and then slowly see it organically grow over time. Especially, of course, since the COVID period, it got us a big boost. And to where we are now, a mature company with several teams and hierarchy and all the things that come when you become a big organization. But most importantly, a really matured product that has been built for many years and also has a solid foundation of experience for us to rely on, because we have a lot of experience that's acting in our benefit.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the COVID boost, which is a common thing, I think, in this field. But maybe you could tell us a little bit more about WebinarGeek as a platform. And webinar is now a common term. But maybe you could tell us about how things have changed in that landscape, and in particular, how what WebinarGeek does to meet those changes.
Well, in essence, our platform allows any individual organization to broadcast webinars. It can be live webinars, it can be automated webinars, which is actually how we started. Before WebinarGeek's inception, there were a few customers of a sort of a former company which went under a bit of a different name that wanted to do live webinars, but not really live, because they wanted to have all the content pre-approved before live. So they wanted to do it as if it was live. So
yeah.
Software was created to develop to host these simulated webinars. And that's sort of the starting point of WebinarGeek, because one of our webinar types is automated webinar. So you can host a webinar as if it's live, but actually you're playing a recording, which is sort of the stress-free version of a webinar. And you have on-demand webinars, and yeah, that's what our product allows to. I think the biggest change is, especially before the COVID era, is that before we were acting in, okay, we were at to we our challenge was to have people be familiar and experienced enough to host webinars, which is like video broadcasting, which is already a bit scary for some, and to actually convince them of the fact that they had to do these webinars to begin with, which for many organizations, especially before COVID, they were like, nah, I don't really need webinars. I don't really need to have like an online video presence. I can go about my work in like as I always have done it. And then ever since COVID, that sort of changed. So we now only have to convince people that why WebinarGeek is the best product to host your webinars, rather than also have to convince people to host webinars to begin with, which was a big challenge in those early years for us, to convince people to start with webinars in general, not necessarily the product.
Yeah, it's interesting how quickly that changes. The content that we consume online is more and more video. So folks, as you know, companies are playing catch up as they do as the landscape changes. You know, we work in video products here. We know that engineering a video product is extremely challenging, but I'd love to dig a little bit more into how those challenges trickle into the design project. Carlos, maybe you can talk a bit about how the experience design is affected by, you know, in the webinar setting, it's complex. You have many different user roles, I imagine, but maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, it's definitely challenging, as quality and reliability are quite paramount to the experience. So the content is center stage here, and everything around it needs to be intuitive and accessible, especially when considering that you have the customer needs and also the viewer needs, which can be quite different from each other. Luckily, we are very approachable, so we get direct feedback from the customers, and this synergy really has been helping us a lot to guiding our roadmap to address these challenges and also to inspire us into new approaches as well.
Oh, that's yeah. I like to hear that there's a healthy feedback loop. And it probably helps you stand out as a product, listening to the customers. How did you end up choosing Daily as a platform? I'm curious. Was it the first video API that you integrated?
No, not really. We started with a long history there. I think we started back in the early days in 2015 with an integration of Google Hangouts, the predecessor of, I think it's YouTube Live nowadays. That's what we integrated. So we focus solely on the platform, the whole scheduling and web page builder platform, the statistics and everything. And the streaming was sort of, we send you over to Google Hangouts in those early days. In 2017, that changed, and we changed to a self-host solution. So we built a lot of stuff ourselves. And really our expertise and our knowledge is all in software and software development, and building a product that is usable, easy to use, and has a differentiator for customers to have successful webinars. So a couple of years back, we started a journey to see, okay, where can we still own what we have? Can we still build the things we like to do, but not worry too much about the technical infrastructure and functionalities of everything that comes with streaming, because that's not really where expertise was and is, or would like to be. Maybe it's sort of a strategical decision, isn't it? And we started with as sort of these projects go, we started with a long list of requirements, brought it down to a long list of vendors that we could work with. Initially, ultimately chose 3 to build a prototype for, Daily included. And the prototype we built with Daily, and the support we got, and the documentation we used, and all those factors that we took into account, convinced us in the end to opt for Daily as our first sort of video API to implement. So yeah, that was quite exciting.
No, that's wonderful. I mean, we have deep talent here. That's why I'm here too. I love working with talented engineers. Just makes everything easier.
It does. It is. I mean, we're developers, right? So
Right.
it's very important for us that we also get support on our level. I mean, we know how to build software. That's not a problem, but we do need, we need help. Okay, how do we sort of integrate those the components in the right way to optimize the delivery of video, basically. And that's what Daily got us a lot of help for, and still does along the way, because as you know, video streaming is challenging. Even though it's a commodity nowadays, it still remains very challenging with different browsers, and there's all so many aspects that impact the live stream. But yeah, we're doing pretty good on that front, partly thanks to the support from Daily.
Oh, that's great to hear. Well, and that kind of points to, I mean, webinars are already a pretty complex landscape of user roles and other things, and there's a lot of other bits to focus on beyond the kind of foundational inner workings of audio and video. Can you tell me a little bit more about the kinds of affordances that you've designed specifically for creators and broadcasters on your platform?
Yeah, I can maybe start it. I'm sure Carlos has some things to say about that as well. Well, like I said, our expertise in software, but it's a funny thin line almost between the broadcasting and the software, because if the video stream is sort of, it doesn't really set us apart without the software, right? But if the video stream doesn't deliver, then the software doesn't matter anymore. So that's always the balance. But our differentiators are within or especially within the software. It's about the engagement. It's about capturing all the details from people from the time they visit your webinar landing page to when they register to your webinar, when they watch your webinar, and all the tooling that we provide along the way, such as integrating with different platforms, CRM systems, email providers, payments. We have channels, YouTube-like channels for your webinars, but all in a more private setting, so you can control everything about your webinar, basically, whether you have your viewers, whether you allow them to seek through your webinar, whether you want to limit how often they can watch, tracking time and stuff like that. So there's a lot of focus on all those tools for hosting events, basically, tools for everyone, because we have a very broad audience, and I think that's sometimes difficult from a product owner point of view, as in where do we focus on next. But we're doing well. We're doing well on that front. Carlos, what do you have to add to that?
Go ahead.
Well, I can add solely on the practical sense. Is Remy mentioned so many things. Designing to make that experience seamless is definitely the challenging part. So we are indeed doing all this stitching by applying most of the common patterns and conventions that people see associated with this type of offer, for example. And when introducing new features, for example, with not very common patterns, we'll definitely rely much more on using type, for example, along with visuals. And that's, of course, to ensure the most transparent flow, either on the back end or on the front end. So yeah, it's a good challenge, I'd say.
No, that's great. I know there's a bit of a trend. I think when people think about video in general on the web, and also webinars, that it feels kind of primarily broadcasty, right? Producers and audience members, but there's clearly an increase in the amount of back and forth of interactivity between the audience and those presenting material. How do you make affordances for audience members?
One of the things that set us apart is customizability. It goes from branding to controlling what someone can do in your webinar, opposed to what you can configure. If for anyone in your webinar, we call them team members, whether they can broadcast audio and video, whether they can start and stop interactions, whether they can manage the chat. You can create custom roles for anyone. And the same goes for viewers. You can bring your viewers on stage, so you can select the viewer and bring them on stage, just like a real seminar, right? The webinars, the inception, the foundation of the fundamentals of a webinar is that it sort of is the web version of a seminar. And in a seminar, someone can raise their hand and be like, "Hey, I have a question. Can you answer my question?" So we try to represent the same approach within the webinar, that someone from the audience can ask a question, and you can choose to answer that question live and have someone ask that question live as well. So while we focus still on webinars, we're not optimized for the typical meeting scenario. We still have those elements built in that you can present with other people and you can drag people in from a view only role to a share and present role, sort of.
Yeah, I think we've learned a lot of hard lessons in this kind of explosion of virtual interactions on how to bring like a human element back to these virtual things. So having your webinars behave as much like a live event as possible is really exciting. Carlos, are there elements of your platform that make a virtual experience maybe better than you could get live? Things that you wouldn't be able to do in an in-person environment?
Well, I can think of a few. Convenience would be the first one. You're in the comfort of your house or someone else's house, and you have access to that very event. There's a very lower barrier of engagement to engage, sorry. So it's very easy to interact, to participate and provide feedback instead of being with an audience and shaking hands and talking to each other. And a very big one, which is reach, because with this platform, basically the whole world is your audience. So it's mind-boggling in that sense.
Yeah, the accessibility factor alone probably brings a lot of really interesting perspectives, particularly in a back and forth context. Yeah, that's exciting. Have you observed any unexpected behaviors from creators, like anyone that's used your platform in ways that you hadn't anticipated?
Before COVID, everyone used it as we anticipated, product demos, sales webinars, training, education. But with COVID, everyone started to stream anything, and I think mostly it was bringing offline events to online events. So yoga classes, weddings, any sort of event that could be streamed was suitable to become a webinar. So people started to use it in a much more generic way than we ever anticipated, almost becoming a generic video streaming experience rather than a webinar specific experience. And this we learned a lot from that, as in how to refocus our product a bit to become more accessible outside of the realm of just the notion of a webinar, because you can basically use it for any event. It might not be super optimized for the thing that you're trying to do, but it will work just fine. So yeah.
Nice. Are there certain user-based tools that became far more essential given the broader use of it?
I would say it's mostly within your registration settings of the webinar. People wanted to tweak their settings to anything, so wanted to have be more private, only invite people that meet specific criteria, limit registration numbers, limit registration times. You can now tweak almost any aspect of the registration flow that you like, and this was mostly inspired by those years.
Yeah. Oh, great. And what's next for WebinarGeek? Is there anything exciting that we could tease our audience with?
Yes, very much. We're working on big new integrations. So that's one thing. We just launched our integration with Salesforce, and we're about to launch a few more improvements to our integrations with HubSpot and ActiveCampaign, which are pretty popular. And I think Carlos can tell maybe a bit about one of the biggest things we have coming up for streaming, which is what we call question management.
Yes, we are working hardly on that one. So again, on the part of the interaction, we are making this even more interactive, where people, instead of hoping to on the chat ask a question and hoping that it is fished out from the presenter or the co-presenter, there will be a dedicated tab where they can ask questions by text, and then those questions can actually be replied by text or live as well. So they can be handpicked by the presenter or co-presenters and actually address those questions while live.
Yeah, I'm sure that can get complicated, particularly in larger events, right? Because the stream of comments can fly by so quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and those questions will become sort of timed events as well. So in the replay, you'll be able to see those questions with a specific time code that they were answered with, and we will bring this to automated webinars as well, and that really makes your simulated webinar really as if it's live, because you even have a live question and answer component to that experience, which further enhances this whole webinar experience. So we're super excited about this this next big addition.
Oh, that's great. Data is nothing without context, right?
Exactly.
That's awesome. I'm curious, what advice would you give other startups designing video experiences into their products or services?
I can give a few.
Yeah.
I would start with the two pillars, like content and accessibility, to have like the center stage of the video experience. It's quite, if it's complicated to add content, the creator will simply move on to another one. If the viewer gets friction just to access the video, they will do the same. A video, like you said, is like one of the most consumed type of contents right now. So there's a plethora of solutions. So the best way to stand out is definitely by making it simple to add and access content. That's my tip.
Great advice. I know. Simplicity, not getting in the way of the process. That's fantastic advice. Is there anything in particular that keeps you up at night? I mean that in like less fears and more like excitements when it comes to the future
in a
of
good
video.
way.
Yeah.
Well, ever since WebinarGeek started, one of the things that set us apart was the ease of use of the platform. So my ultimate dream and things that could keep me up at night is seamlessness in all areas. We want to make the product as seamless as possible for anyone to use, accessible for anyone to use, whether it's a participant in the webinar, whether you're just viewing the webinar, whether you're organizing the webinar. We would like things to be as seamless as possible. So that's also always something that's nagging in the back of my head. So how can we further optimize that?
Nice.
Carlos?
In my case, and in equal measure, dream and fear, it's now what is new degrees of immersiveness that the new technologies are bringing into this sector. So it's just amazing. But then the UX to make it as seamless and hassle-free as possible, that's the part where the fear starts to kick in. But luckily it's in the future, so I can worry with those things later.
Yeah.
But yeah, very exciting.
Well, Remy and Carlos, it's been a joy speaking with you all today. WebinarGeek is Daily's platform of choice when we host our own webinars, and we thoroughly enjoy working with you all on this platform, and appreciate the insights that you've brought from your own journey working in this exciting space. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to what's next.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.